If I told you I lived two lives in one body, would you believe me? My name is Margaret Ellen Hayes. I was born in 1942, in a small Ohio town where Sundays were for church, and secrets traveled faster than the wind. I'm 83 now. People see me as a gentle old woman who bakes too much and talks too little. But I've carried a story inside me for 60 years. A story no one in my family knows. A story of the man I married, and the man I loved. At 23, I married William Hayes. He was kind, safe, the kind of man my parents approved of. He had a steady job at the local mill, and a quiet laugh that made people trust him. I wasn't in love, not truly. But back then, love wasn't expected. Stability was, and William offered me a steady shore in a world that didn't leave much room for dreams. I thought I could learn to love him. I thought I would, and in some small ways, I did. But then came Thomas Ray Whitmore. I met Thomas in the spring of 1968. He was a new schoolteacher from Chicago, moved to our town to care for his aging mother. He had deep brown eyes that always seemed to be reading between the lines, and a voice that made everything he said feel like poetry. We met at a church fundraiser. I was painting chairs. He was donating books. We talked about Steinbeck and Chopin, about cities we'd never see and lives we might have lived. I told myself it was harmless, just talk, just thoughts. I was a married woman, after all. I had 2 children by then, and William worked long shifts at the mill. But the truth is, I began rearranging my days just to cross paths with Thomas. I volunteered for library duty. I lingered after choir practice. I baked pies I had no one to feed, just so I'd have an excuse to knock on his mother's door. For almost a year, nothing happened. No kiss, no touch, just a growing ache in my chest whenever he smiled. Then came May 1969. It was raining. I had forgotten my umbrella and ended up soaked outside the school building. Thomas invited me in to dry off. I remember the silence, thick, electric. He looked at me like I was something sacred and broken all at once. When he said my name, I knew everything in my life was about to change. And when he kissed me, I didn't pull away. We never talked about leaving our lives. Not once. We both knew what the world would do with people like us, people who dared to want more than what was expected. So we created a world of our own, stitched together from brief meetings and quiet letters. Once a week, I'd say I was visiting a cousin or running errands, and we'd meet by the river behind the old train station. He brought books, I brought sandwiches. Sometimes we just sat, our hands brushing, saying nothing at all. There was never a plan, no big escape, just stolen time and aching goodbyes. He never married, said no one else ever made the world feel alive the way I did. I stayed with William. I cooked, I cleaned, I smiled through church picnics and PTA meetings. I was the perfect wife, the perfect mother, the perfect lie. And yet, I loved both men, in very different ways. Both William gave me safety, structure. He gave me the family I now treasure. I mourned him deeply when he passed in 2011, holding his hand as he faded away. But Thomas gave me something William never could. He saw me, the real me, and he loved that woman, not the role I played, but the soul I hid. Thomas died in 2002, a sudden heart attack. I found out 2 days later from the town librarian. I wasn't at his funeral. I didn't even ask where he was buried. I mourned him in silence, pressing his letters to my chest at night, letting my tears fall into casseroles I pretended were for church socials. He had written me 147 letters over the years. I burned most of them, terrified someone would find out, but I kept 11. I hid them behind the old wallpaper lining in my sewing kit, the one no one ever touches. Now, in the quiet of old age, I open that box sometimes and read his words. I hear his voice in my head, soft and unyielding. If there's another life, I'll find you there. And if not, then let this one be enough. Sometimes I wonder what my children would think if they knew. Would they call me a liar, a traitor, or just a woman who dared to want something of her own? They see me as gentle Nana, always with a pie in hand. But I was once a woman with fire in her chest, and a secret life folded neatly between the pages of borrowed books. If I had to do it over again, would I choose differently? Maybe. Maybe I would have told the truth to myself, to William, to the world. Maybe I would have chased Thomas down the streets of that small town and begged him to take me anywhere. But I didn't, and this quiet ache is what I live with instead. Tell me this, if you were me, would you have chosen love or duty?